Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great treat for you now. Somebody that I have spent the last few weeks eagerly anticipating. One of the top minds in green building, probably on Earth. A man that probably needs no introduction from me, but it's an absolute honor to welcome John here today to Green Building Focus. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the master himself, John Picard.
My people. No pressure. Hey, greetings from California, from San Francisco. I don't do the podium. And Jim, you did a great job. You should lose your notes more often. That was awesome. And I too have my Eco iPad, but my wife's driving a big old diesel Mercedes today, so I'm in trouble. But she doesn't drive very well. If she gets in an accident, my kids are going to walk away. So that's the thing. Hey, good morning. How are you? You guys know each other? No? All right. Everybody stand up. Look to the person to your left. Go introduce yourself. And now give that person a hug. If it's a green conference, you gotta hug them. Come on. No kissing. All right. Let's get it going. All right, we got something done. So, I live in California, and I haven't been back here for a long time, but I don't usually tell this part of my story. What I'm going to do today is tell you a little bit about me, my story. And it starts with the fact that I grew up in Pass Christian, Mississippi. My dad ran the Stennis test facility for the Saturn V1 booster rocket that took us to the moon. And it was a really important time in my life. I think it staged me for who I am today. So I believe my dad really was instrumental in taking us to the moon. And when I used to go to see those static firings of those rockets, my brothers and I were totally stunned. I mean, you guys know where the test facility is? You guys, have you ever seen one of those static firings? So there's a man-made lake. They pump 1 million gallons a minute into the testing bucket where they bring the bird up on a barge in the Pearl River and on a couple other tributaries and pull it up into the test stand. And they built this test stand in like 2 years. I mean, going to the moon 9 years was mission critical. You know, Kennedy set us on a path that was just unbelievable. But my dad taught me so many things through that moon launch that helped me in my career. But the first thing he did is he screwed my brothers and I up totally. Because they would static fire that rocket. They'd pump that water down in so the deflecting bucket wouldn't melt. And that flame would go 2 miles, you guys. And it was like, so I have a hearing deficiency in both ears. It's awesome though, I can't hear sirens. So when I get pulled over, it's serious, it's guns out. What are you doing? But what happened when that water hit that flame? Clouds formulated. The clouds came over the test stand viewing area, about a crowd this big. Werner von Braun, General Medeiros, all these guys from the military, a bunch of NASA, GE, Rocketdyne, you know, all these guys. And it started to rain. It was a clear blue day 10 minutes ago. We static fired this rocket. It's going to take us to the moon, and it rains. My brothers and I look up at the old man, and all we could think was, holy shit, the old man can make rain. And we were done. There was no way we were going to ever make rain. Never mind go to the moon. But the other thing that happened to me that year, the year we went to the moon, what happened in August? Hurricane Camille. I lived right 1 block from Highway 90, Pass Christian. And we lived in the 3 Little Pig house. Our house was heavy gauge steel frame, red iron, steel frame, brick. My best friends, 60 of my dad's employees, and 100 plus more people that lived around us within 10 miles. Didn't have that kind of house. And so, my dad was in Dolphin Island with a bunch of people from NASA at a retreat. And he called up and he said, hey, the test facility weather guy said the storm's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be a 3-foot tidal flow from the bayous. So you should bring stuff upstairs. We brought everything but the important stuff. my dad's degrees, all our family photos on the walls. I'll never forget drinking hot water, the only water we had, out of the water heater in the second floor bathroom. I'll never forget opening a can of Biddy Moore beef stew that I found floating inside a bucket out off the back of the yard. I'll never forget finding my best friend dead, floating underwater with his eyes open and his hands out, trapped underneath a tree. And I'll never forget the woman who came up to me and told me that she stayed alive holding onto her baby a block away in a pine tree because she could see the light in our bathroom because my brothers and I were burning our Boy Scout kerosene lamps. And we're just little kids. We're 8, 9, 7, 10 years old. My dad arrived just before the storm. At 8:05 at night, I saw water. The front door is right here. We're on the second floor. Here's the railing. We're looking down at the front door. We had a classic kind of colonial front house, about 600 feet of front yard, and about a quarter mile to the Gulf of Mexico, and a carport. My dad had a brand new white Imperial Continental, and I saw the pine needles floating by the sides of the door. And I said, "Dad, there's water." He goes, "No, there's not." The minute I said not, the entire front of the house just caved in. The tidal wave hit the house. But it was the reverse tidal wave. The water was coming around. The main tidal wave hit the house and we didn't even know it. Keesler Air Force Base registered 1,600 tornadoes that night. And the thing that really I thought was over was a tornado clipped the corner of our house. And the aerial shots later, you can see the tornado path. And we survived. Times-Picayune listed us as dead. And I tell you this beginning story because I wanted you to know that I spent some time down here. I'm not local. I'm not. But I feel, I knew how the people in Greensburg felt because of Hurricane Camille. And when I arrived and I got out of the rental car, I started crying because I just couldn't believe that I was going through this again. And, I had to do something about it. And that's what my motivation was. And up until that time, I'd spent my whole life becoming who I am now, trying to find my way, just directionally to do the right thing. I think the best and the worst thing about green is we labeled it green, and we've labeled it sustainability, and we've labeled it all these things that people take that kindness and they think it's a sense of weakness. And there's nothing weak about being efficient. There's nothing weak about being a leading point in the world today in this country, about doing the right thing. So I want to leave you with a powerful message that doing green, being sustainable, and doing all this stuff that seems to be this emerging sort of plate of living life is really about protecting your children. It's really about creating an economy that'll be the most profitable economy in the world. You know why? My clients, my companies, are the most profitable companies out there because they have no waste. I have mined the waste stream out of their process. Interface Carpet, you guys know Interface Carpet, Ray Anderson. I'm reserving the last 12 minutes of this talk to show you a memorial video about Ray Anderson because I think it's the best thing I can do with that 12 minutes for you people today. So at about 30 minutes into my talk, will you shut me down, or 40 minutes? Give me 15 minutes to show Ray's video, okay? And I'm just going to do this. So I'm showing you this because this is one of my greatest pieces of work. This is my best friend, Gregory Colbert, who's been out filming animals and man for 15 years. And we just, in the last 6 years, started taking this show along with 120 pictures of man and nature where the human has their eyes closed. And when you walk through this show and you see all these amazing animals next to these beautiful people, you feel like you just went back 10 generations ago where our fathers' fathers had their hand in the dirt and we were part of a nature. So I'm putting that up there in background so you can get the sense of spirit of how important it is for us to go in the right direction and do things with nature, not against it. Now that said, I'm hardcore just like you guys. I race motorcycles. I built big stuff. I built the 3 most expensive houses in the world. And I'm not ashamed of it. When I got into the green space in the beginning, I was like, oh, Jesus, look what I did. My last house cost $137 million. It had a 4-inch copper sprinkler line system. It had a $60,000 a month electrical bill, and my clients weren't even home. We had a Sikorsky retractable helicopter that would leave the front lawn in a room this big, in case of another riot. It was a mountain of excess. My clients had so much more money than sense, I got sick to my stomach. I took 2 years off. And for those of you in the audience who are maybe thinking like me, or you're here, you guys are here too because you're thinking about something else in your life. Knox, my friend here, this is his 16-year-old son. They drove in from Atlanta today because Todd and I have been doing a lot of work in Atlanta. We did Atlantic Station together. We did a bunch of energy stuff. And so, Knox, this show's for you, okay? So, there's just comes a time when things influence you. And what really happened, though, was my owners got their first month operating bill, which was $500,000, and they said, holy shit, too. And they dispatched me into the world to try to find efficiency in things, and I couldn't find it. But I ran smack ass into the environmental movement. And I went and saw 2 films. One was called Women in Flowers, and the other one's called Where Are All the Dolphins? And it was just 2 films, and you could have taken the whole eco-warrior side of it and looked at these films and go, oh, the dolphins. But what I saw was the tuna industry. And in nature, tuna run underneath dolphins. So these guys are out in these 250-foot commercial fishing boats with helicopters and aerial spotters, and they're tracking dolphin pods because underneath those dolphin pods are $20,000 big yellowfins. And so they go out with a skiff, they wrap around those dolphins, they take half sticks of dynamite, they throw them in front of the bull dolphins. The dolphins start circling and panic swimming. 20 dolphins are dead because they hit each other. They put out what's called a purseine net. They drag the net out, they circle the dolphins, and then they pull them in through a power block, through this huge pulley. And I'm watching this, and I'm crushed. And I'm not hugging anything. My dad put us on the moon. We're just, my brothers and I, we built tree houses. And when we didn't like them, because we were builders, we burned them down. And we built another set and became developers. That was supposed to be a joke. Come on. I was pulling you back from the dolphin stuff. Come on. So, anyway. All these things had a lot of influence on me. So, 2 years I went out into the world and I traveled the world to see not what was wrong with the world, but what was right. And I discovered a lot. And you know, the greenest thing I discovered, the most amazing part of sustainability had nothing to do with materials or science or energy. That's my space. It was people. The world is amazing. People in it are amazing. And my job now is to inspire you with the fact that you are part of that, whether you like it or not. And some of you are here for maybe a career shift, or some of you are here to wake up tomorrow and feel like you're a leader in the space, like you, Jim, and the governor, and all these people who are stepping into the line of commitment to put these towns back. I'll give you my idea for that theater right now. I'll give you my idea for that town right now, because I won't be here for that charrette. I'll tell you what you need to do with those projects. You need to turn the activity and the action, every minute of building those theaters back, all of those meetings, you have to turn that into curriculum. You have to turn that into a classroom. You have to take the local universities and you need to put 100 kids next to the 10 working team members, and they need to live and breathe that whole exercise, and that value, those buildings, all those lives lost, all of that, to rebuild it so that it's more efficient and it's green is one thing, but to build it and to drive that experience and importance to create maybe one of the world's next greatest leaders in this space by working through that process, to turn them on, to let their head and their heart line up with that work. They'll never get that kind of experience again, and it's right now. And so that's my input to you in Alabama and everyone, is find a way to turn those rebuild programs into curriculum, because it'll pay you back generationally. And that'll live longer than those buildings will, for sure. So off I go. I built these mega homes. I became an eco-warrior. I got out in the water. I did some crazy stuff. I saw where we were at our best. I saw where we were at our worst. I came back. I started a green building and green consulting company. I thought, here I go, I got to build my own house. So I built my first house out of recycled metal, all this stuff. It was a monument of what not to do, you guys. It was like the 60 things how to fail. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was so ugly. It looked like the box how the house across the street should have come in. It was like this corrugated metal shed. It was like Ice Station Zebra. No shit, my neighbors petitioned it. They said, we don't want to see this house built. This thing's ugly. It was south facing. It was on Green Avenue. It was from here to the back of the room. It was 30 feet wide, 60 feet long, and 24 feet high. And this was all glass south facing. So in the morning, the drapes would open. I had charcoal colored concrete floor. It would heat the whole floor, heat the house. The whole house was off the grid. It had a tracking array the size of a screen that would follow the sun. People thought I was trying to land something. And you could tell what time of day it was if you lived in the neighborhood, cut to follow the screen. He likes me. And, oh, he's going to record me. He's a reporter. Are you? Hi. I love reporters. So the year the house opens, the first 2 months, an LA Times reporter shows up at my house and writes a story about the house. It gets syndicated worldwide. The next morning in the paper, 2 buses are out in my front yard. There's 2 buses of Japanese tourists that weren't invited knocking on my door. Every one of them had a gift, but they toured the house, and that was the beginning. The next thing I know, I'm there. I'm working for the Gap. I'm doing Sony's headquarters. One of the producers at Sony said, you need to go to the White House for Clinton. Clinton just got elected. And here I am, on a plane, on someone else's nickel, walking in, knocking on the door, and meeting Al Gore, and meeting Katie McGinty in the Indian Treaty Room. And I'm about to launch the beginning of the greening of the White House, which led to some amazing stuff. That's why I'm telling you this. Thank you. How'd you know I did before? So, the house, I still love the house. If you guys ever want to go see the house, it's 12915 Green Avenue, Marina Del Rey. The people that live there now, they love it. There's several books about it, but it was cool. It was off the grid. Oh, I used these new crystals when I did the landscape. And the landscaping then was grass, just like everybody else. We all made the mistake of planting too much grass, but the new owners have made it so the landscape's completely edible. It's all food producing, which is the right thing to do. And the first time I turned the sprinklers on, I thought, you know what? I'm going to put some extra of these little gel crystals in. And so the sprinklers went on the next morning. I went out and I was in 6 inches of Jell-O. The whole house. It was hilarious. It was stuff like that. I painted the backside of the house with plant-based chemistry paint, safe paint. It washed out into the street. This was total failure. But you know what? I was making those mistakes. And I was gaining ground, gaining knowledge. And then all of a sudden, I finished my solar system. And man, I am telling you, it is awesome. It is like independence. It's like owning a gun. When you throw the switch and watch your tracking array, watch your electrical meter do this, watch this. My meter's going like this. And I threw that switch. And then it went like this. I went, yes! I got paid back. Illegally. I was reverse tariff feeding my meter, right? That's bad because if the power goes out and the workman's up on the line, you're going to kill him. So I had to stop that nonsense. But it was awesome. Here comes the earthquake, 1994. Dawn. My neighbors are hating me. Dawn, 5:32 in the morning. Earthquake hits. You guys have been through some storms. Let me tell you what's more shaking, more rattling, more like life-threatening than a hurricane or a tornado. You can feel it coming. You can hear the train. You have moments. You've got CNN and every weather channel telling you it's pending. But when an earthquake hits, it is instantaneous. You are where you're at. It happens, and you have nothing to do with what's going to happen next. And it is radical. And the second worst thing about an earthquake are the aftershocks. Guess what happened? My alarm system kicks in. My batteries go full. Everything turns on in my house. The drapes open up, and I am the only person in Los Angeles with power. Guess where my neighbors went? My living room. Just this many. Drinking cocoa, all the cocoa I could make for their kids. Importantly, while they went through the aftershocks, I protected that made my neighbors' children feel safe during the worst thing on that day. And that is why you want to rebuild. That's why you want to rebuild off the grid. I'm doing a test store for Walgreens, a test store for 7-Eleven, a test store for Staples. The Walgreens store I got hired because I watched women buying makeup for 3 days. And the lighting's so bad in those stores, they had to take the lipstick and the powder makeup and go outside and see the real color. And I said, yeah, your lighting sucks. You need to put some LEDs in it, lower the energy. And they're saying, but more importantly, a customer can't even see your product. And all these companies are spending all this money to showcase their product. So you got the job. But I said, hey, Tom, you know what? I'm going to take the store off the grid. And 150 stores in the U.S. will be off the grid. And when the next catastrophic event, the next tornado, the next hurricane, the next earthquake, the next fire, Walgreens will become a command center, a community center, because what's in it? Water, medicine, and now power. So all those stores will be geothermal, fully solar powered. Isn't that cool? You'll look at a Walgreens differently now, won't you? And the ability for Walgreens to convert their store to become important and meaningful to the community always was there. It was under their nose. It just took somebody like me to pause for a minute, having to go through that. You guys have been through these storms. You guys have been through a lot. And look at what's going on in the economy. And at the end of my talk, I'm going to talk to you about the fact that this country, this movement, this situation, the youth culture that we have today, the brilliance that I see in the universities, the amazing technologies I'm going to share with you for a couple minutes that are coming out of Silicon Valley, are going to turn things around in this country like we went to the moon. Like we had leadership when we had leadership. But we have global dilution now. And it drives me nuts because we just produced the last industrial revolution. And we mined the surface of the planet. We're in what's called an Anthropocene. We're in this big moment of extinction that we caused. And we've done two things to this planet as people. We built cities, and we mined ancient sunlight as oil and combusted it off as carbon. We can't do anything about that. What's your name? Joyce, how old are you? Not 68. You and I have less time on the planet than we've had, right? How do you feel about things going forward? Positive, optimistic, nervous, anxious. Why? So you worry about your children. All of you worry about your children, right? Would all of you go into a burning house to save your children? Raise your hands. In a second, would we? I delivered my 3 kids. No one touched my babies until they were on mommy's tummy, because I wanted to be that close to my wife, and I wanted to be part of it. And when my dad died, and when my daughter arrived, I knew we had nothing to do with that. Right? We just show up in the world. We're here for 60 years, or 54 years. And when we go, we have nothing to do with that either. It's what we do while we're here. Each one of us has magic. You have a gift. You have the capacity to care and to protect and preserve and inspire. And a lot of people just don't get it out. And one of the things I want to tell you about, the moment that you have to rebuild these towns, the moment that you can collectively help people, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do good in the world. But if directionally, you guys, as a movement, as this green building focused movement in Alabama, you just go in the right direction, greatness will come to you. I would like to think that all the things, the great things that have happened to me in my career, I planned it, or I was smart enough, or I was lucky enough to have these things happen. The only thing I can look back now, I'm doing this for 20 plus years, and I'm on firm ground. I've been in this a long time. I've seen the good, the bad, the hype, the reality, and I see where it's going. I'm going to give you some insights on that. The only thing that holds true for me is that I just kept heading in the right direction. I just kept trying to do the right thing. So in your mind, please think about green and sustainability as just being in the right direction, doing the right thing for people, and doing the right thing for your community, and just keep your corner clean. And worry about what Ray Anderson's going to say in the video, which is tomorrow's child. So if we would go into a burning building or a burning car to save our kids, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to do the doom and gloom state of the earth. I'll just tell you this. The house is on fire, and it's in slow motion. And that's the problem. You cannot see how climate change is going to change our kids' future's future. It's imperative. And if you sense my passion and my urgency and my energy, it's because I think I know a little bit more about the time horizons, what we have to do in this next 20 or 30 years. The next 20-year, 30-year window on how we design, how we engineer, how we make the things we make, how we become a country, companies, people, that it's not just what we make, but it's what we stand for. That's what's going on right now. And I'll tell you, the customer of the future, you, how old are you? 20. She's not a person that's going to go work for a company that's doing the wrong thing. She's not a person that's going to buy something from a company that's leaving more behind in a waste stream than positive, closing the loop and doing the right thing. And you know the most profitable companies that mimic nature, because in nature there's no waste, there never has been, they're going to go on forever. That's perfect sustainability. And so that's what's going to happen. And real estate, who's an architect in the room? Wow. Who's an engineer? Who's a builder? Who's a home builder? Who's a material supplier? Tile guys, plumbers, electricians, anybody from the union? Okay, so you guys are about to build world. Let me give you 5 minutes on real estate. Real estate's in the toilet. Values are depressed. It is a major good time to make big money. This is the time to buy distressed properties. This is the time to buy a distressed, or make a commitment to a distressed parcel, community, town, and rebuild. You want to take a C building to a B building. How are you going to do that? You're going to build it green. You're going to build it sustainably. But you know why? Not to build it to just building code and LEED standards. That's just a standard. And you know what, my friends? Building code, you know what that is? That's just one step above breaking the law. And we build, oh boy, do we build. We build to low bid. Just before John Glenn went into space, my dad tells me this story. He goes, John, you're so smart. You could have gone to any school you want. I'm a college dropout, by the way. I went surfing. And I'm not apologizing. It was awesome. Met some cool chicks and had some great times. Wouldn't trade it. No dress rehearsal, people. So my dad says, you know, Glenn was sitting on a 1.6 million moving part device that represented man's greatest technology at one moment. And seconds before he lifts off, he says, I want to thank everybody. This is amazing. On all million moving parts, focus on man's greatest technology, but I just realized what I'm really sitting on is a pile of low bids. And off he went, in spite of that, right? And this is important too. I used to sweat it. I'd wake up and I'd say, it's over. We're never going to come out of this economy. We're never going to save the world. We're never going to feel nervous. We're never not going to feel nervous. But guess what? That's not true. Because we, in this country, are leaders. We take risks. And the thing that I totally am optimistic about, hopeful, is I get to see the possibilities of all these technologies coming out of these labs. And the other thing my dad calmed me down to, he says, hey John, do you know that when we were going to the moon, 90% of the time we were off course. And when we were coming home from the moon, 90% of the time we were off course. And you know what got us there and back? Tiny mid-course corrections. So guess what, you guys? You are an important mid-course correction, not just for here, not just for the moment of these storms, not just for Alabama. Just like Greensburg, you are a directional heading, a human beacon of mid-course correction. This is life's long for the planet. Don't worry about the Earth. It's fine. We're the ones that may be a biological experiment. You know why the Earth's fine? Because it's got all the time in the world. And it's been through this a few times. And I'm telling you, if you put the Earth to work, if you respect what the energy is below our feet in geothermal conditions, if you can harvest the sun, if you can use the advanced science and materials that we have today to build and do these things, we'll turn that curve. If we get to 450 parts per million in this atmosphere, we are finished. You have written off your children's children's children. Knox, your kids' kids are going to be pissed. And we will leave them with situations that are dire. And it starts with things like this. This Tesla, my partners were the lead investors in this. Now, this isn't perfect, and I've done all kinds of cars. I had the first hydrogen car in the US. I had the first natural gas car. I converted a Range Rover. I had a hydrogen 7 Series. It was great until they had to pick it up every 10 days to fuel it and then bring it back to me. That didn't make sense. And then one day I made the mistake of leaving it at the airport. I don't know if you know about hydrogen cars, but they have to purge the gas. You can just leave the car parked for a week and it'll be on empty when you come back. Because the gas has to expand and escape. It's liquefied. So I'm in the parking structure, not supposed to be, right? Little antenna, BMW's going beep, beep. They're following me everywhere. They know exactly what I've been doing. And they're like, where'd you leave the car? I said, it's at Long Beach Airport. But it's in a carport, so it's breathing, it's fine. Well, it got to about 100 degrees, the car started farting. It goes, and these people are walking by, like Australia or something, like, oh my God, what's going on here? They go to a fireman, the fireman comes by, and the car's going, they hauled my 7 Series away. It was gone. I never saw it again. But it was cool. And my natural gas car was cool because I was paying 42 cents a gallon. And I was filling up at night. Little single lung compressor. And what was good about it is I felt like, wow, this is awesome. I can fill my car up. Now, I have an electric car today. And I love my electric car until it gets to the halfway mark. Then I go into range anxiety. Oh my God, am I going to make it back? So hybrids and transitional things are awesome. You know, but we'll be all electric. I helped BMW launch the i3 and the i8 cars this year. And so let me get into a little bit of like where we're heading. How am I on time? We almost at the Ray Anderson moment? Yeah. So let me just say a little bit about Ray. One of my projects was the Energy Resource Center. It was a building about this big, and it had to demonstrate all these materials and all these things in 1993, 94. And I read Paul Hawkins' book, The Ecology of Commerce. I read the 3rd chapter about products and service. And I looked at the carpet and I went, wow, carpet's a joke. You know, it's the last 6, 7 years, let me call it to the landfill. I started understanding what carpet is in the landfill. You know what carpet is in the landfill? It's an accelerant. So if you slice a landfill, 50 years of landfill, you're going to see layers of carpeting. And when chemicals hit the carpet, it accelerates the chemicals down to the aquifer. So carpet in the landfill, from God's perspective, is an accelerant of toxics to the drinking water on this planet. Now I'm focused on energy, but the future's water. I'll talk about that for a second. Let me see where I am. I want to make sure I don't miss some things. I've been involved in some great projects. The greening of the White House, I'll finish up with that. So I get the go-ahead to do the White House. I go into the men's room. And I'm in the men's room, and in the men's room with me is the usher. We're both standing in the window. The Potomac's right here. And we're standing at the urinals here doing our thing. He's got these half-rimmed glasses. He looks over and goes, are you that green guy? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I've been here for 3 presidencies. You're not going to get anything done. And I go, really? He goes, yeah. So I flushed the toilet, the urinal, and I could see the Potomac go down. It was one of those things that it came at. I thought I was going to get washed out of the bathroom. And I went, this is a joke. This is like a 20-gallon flush, never mind a 1.6. I go, I think I can do something here. And I said, Mr. Usher, isn't that a window air conditioner over there? And he goes, yeah. That window air conditioner. I go, it's on, isn't it? He goes, yeah. And I go, and isn't that a radiator right here? He goes, yeah. I go, the radiator's on too. I said, I'll see you on the playing field. And he beat the hell out of me for months, and I found termites in the window frames in the old executive office building. And I got to change the windows. And I lowered the energy footprint of the old executive office building. 50%. That was the talk of the hip. We went. 6 guys showed up to help me. 3 of those guys created the U.S. Green Building Council. 5 years later, they created LEED. LEED has become the global standard of how we sort of rate ourselves as to this. There should be a LEED plus, something LEED special for towns that are decimated, that are broken, that are with nothing to start with, and you start up again. There should be some kind of federal or national continuous tax incentive or continuous rebuild campaign to incentivize it, because the efficiencies that you will design into will pay back forever. Every decision you make on efficiencies matters. But one of the things you need to think about too is productivity. So here's what I think's happened in real estate today. It's a bifurcated market. There's two types of buildings. There's the standard building. Everybody just says, it's just fine, got my leases, I'm doing great, I'm worth X. And over here is the green guys, the sustainable guys. But really, we're about doing it right. Really, we're about a really efficient building. Guess what we have that they don't? I've got companies that want to be in a building for not 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. My tenants love the building. My building makes people more productive. My building has LED lighting. My building has dynamic glass that changes color automatically when the sun carries around the building, and it's digital. And my windows talk to my LEDs. And my LEDs talk to my smart carpet. And my smart carpet talks to the sensors on my desk. And I have my dashboard, and I can see when I plug in my laptop with Metric Cloud software. Now I'm going to tell you what's going on in Silicon Valley. My biggest career high is happening right now. My career high has been companies, houses, stuff, organizations. I'm building the Facebook of energy right now. It's called soft power. And I'm building it with the same forces and the same backing as the guys that put the money behind every internet pivoting, enabling company out there. The money behind eBay, the money behind Google, the money behind Amazon, the money behind Facebook, the money behind every company that you know as a big global enabler for people, they're behind me. Because energy today, my friends, is a new currency. And my friend Todd Jarvis here helped me discover a name for that. So right now in this building, do you think there's energy in here that doesn't need to be? Do you guys think so? Well, frankly, we're standing in the dark. This glows, right? We should have huge skylights, and these walls should be opening up, and we should be outside. Temperately, right? We'd be comfortable, right? Walking in here, I don't feel any different. But we just built this stuff because we just keep doing it. We gotta stop. We gotta start working with nature. So, guess what about this building? This is why I am making bank today. And this is why this has to be curriculum. I used to get paid by the hour. And I used to get paid by the day. And I used to get paid on a monthly retainer. And today, I am in the wheelhouse, people, because I walk in and you own 100 million feet of New York City. What's your name? Jesse. Jesse, I want to green your buildings.
John, I'm in real estate. I gotta make money by Friday. You know, John, we got deep pockets, but we got short arms. And we ain't gonna put no money in, we're taking money out. John, my buildings are unlevel. Let me take you down to Bubba Gump, buy some shrimp, and get your ass back to Cali. I go, but Jesse, what if I raise the portfolio value of your buildings by 15%, 10%? I go, Jesse, Wall Street crashed. I'm sorry, Jesse. The robbers, the thieves, the boneheads in Wall Street, I'm sorry, you just can't trade derivatives. You're just not going to be able to bump the value of your building up because you think you can. And some idiot just keeps trading the paper all the way back to South Africa, all the way over to Iceland. We floated it, people. We had massive overruns on real estate value. You know what real estate is going to be valued at now? Carbon. The metric for the planet is carbon. It'll hit the balance sheet because the house is on fire. And the tools that I'm building in Silicon Valley, you know what they are? They're super cool, crazy software, magnificent things, but all they are data visualization tools, so you can see the fact that we're sitting in a building with energy that doesn't belong. I'm going to let everybody in the world see with a power tool like Google, the fifth fuel of the world. You know how big the energy utility is out there that is the collective data of energy that should be in place? Let's just take New York City, people. And if I connect to every building and I mine the data out of plug loads, lighting, and I know where lights are on and lights shouldn't be on, and I own that information, guess who I am now? The largest utility in the world based on a state of information. And that information is another form of money. And I'm going to turn that information back to you, the person at that desk, and I'm going to allow you to react to it. And
you will see a Facebook social network media situation so that you can drive the efficiencies of your building. And collectively, your company can cause the landlords to do things that they wouldn't do before. You can tap the brake and say, we're not doing this anymore. So our building, guys, the value of our buildings are going to go up 10 or 15% because we are connected to our buildings. And the Silicon Valley, my friends, is where we're going. My dad put us on the moon. I'm putting us on the Earth. My dad had a Saturn B1 booster rocket. I got Silicon Valley. You should see these gearheads out there. These propeller heads are switched on. You think I'm nuts? I look calm. Steve Jobs and that team, they are maniacal. They're out to build digital futures. So the whole world is a state of analog disconnect. And who would have imagined this? I've seen the next 2 versions of this in the trade secret room at Apple. I've seen the next versions of iPhone. It is amazing. Who would have thought you could do this, right? So when I talk to you about the fact that you can drive in and see your energy cycles, or your fresh air, or know the water, all the life-giving forces, the true externality, the cost, who would have thought that was possible? That's the kind of stuff that can happen in that theater. I'll tell you what, you have me come back to Charette. I took those 10 kids from Greensburg to the Greenville conference. That was the most important thing I did. That was the best thing I did. The rest of the time I was a pain in the ass. And I wasn't there to follow through because I couldn't. I had to come and do this. I had to drop a bomb. Jim, I'll make a commitment to you guys now. I will take 10 people from here to the Silicon Valley, and I will take them on a tour of these technologies, and they can meet the people, and they can meet the money behind those kinds of things, right? Behind Tesla. It's not that car, it's the next one that they're coming out that's 4 doors, and it's only 60 grand, and it is the right thing. It's unbelievable. So you have my word, you have my day, and I will do that. And I will come here for Charette, and I will host a tour of the Silicon Valley. And all you architects, start becoming engineers. Because the state of engineering is starting to lead this stuff. I'm just giving you a little insight. That, and you know, you guys know what's going on at Autodesk, right? With Revit and BIM modeling. Do you know what Project Dasher is? Any of the architects hear what Autodesk is doing with Project Dasher? Probably shouldn't tell you because it's still secret. And Dasher's Revit live. Dasher's Revit, your office building that you guys are rendering, the central plant, it's a real plant somewhere. That's, the dynamics of that plant are operational. So you can start sliding all kinds of different options to the building. You can see live, virtualized aspect of what the result of your building would be. When I started building green, you guys, nobody even knew what their electrical bills were. When I did the Sony lot, they had a $14 million a year water bill. Then I started working on Warner Brothers. It's twice the size of Sony. What's their water bill? $4 million. I went, oh my God, I want to get a little of the savings on this one. And I started looking for running toilets because that's what I found at the Gap. Gap spent $160,000 a month on running toilets. Sony's problem was, after 2 months of searching, stage 6, 40 feet below ground in a camera pit, Esther Williams swimming pool. Remember Esther Williams, the old 6-inch water line? It's been running for 18 years. And for every gallon of water coming out of it, they paid a sewer facility charge. Here's the clincher, guys. Sony could not get entitlement to build their 2 key office towers in the parking lot because they had maximized their water allotment for the city of Culver City. And I turned that water line off. We saved $9 million, and we got entitlement to do the towers. I was a freaking hero in 2 seconds. It was awesome. It was the biggest payday you could imagine. Then you just keep going on and you keep discovering these things. And this is what will happen to you. It's just amazing. So LEED, the USGBC, it's been incredible. The future LEED, just so you know, my belief, LEED will be voluntary and virtual. LEED will be continuous commissioning tool. So architects, engineers, tool up, giving you guys some insight, giving you guys a 1-year minimum insight into where the world will be a year from now. You will have a LEED platinum building. You and I did an office tower, medical building. We got LEED platinum. It's LEED platinum right now. Next year, in 2012, do you think the building's LEED platinum? Chances are it might not be, right? We all know that, right? But the future of certification will be that it's going to be online. So there's going to be very sophisticated software platforms that ride your building automation system and continuously commission and will continuously update where the status of that building is. They won't take your platinum plaque away from 2011. but they will not recertify your building as flat in 2012. Cool, huh? So it's going to get cheaper, easier, but it's going to be life cycle. It's going to be switched on. Who's going to Greenville in Toronto? Should be more of you. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm not so excited about going to Toronto, but San Francisco next year. You guys come to San Francisco next year, I can house all of you in my house. By that time, you'll probably house the rest of the town in my house. It's going to be a happening Greenville. All right, we covered real estate, the drivers. So wait, you know, all this data visualization, all these visualization tools on energy and IP addressable light bulbs, all that stuff. When I'm done mastering the visualization of hidden energy, guess where I'm going to reapply all those tools? Water. I'm going to hand over all the brilliance of understanding where we are from an energy field into water. Because water is cheap. Energy is 20 times more expensive than water, but water is a life-giving force. And we are hammering at it, and we need to protect it. We need to know its true value. You know, you guys, you think gas is expensive at $4 a gallon? Well, let me tell you something, people. We have never paid the true price for anything. You never paid the cost to the planet for a 2x4, a beer, a gallon of gas. It's never been paid. And we've got to start balancing that. And that's what this country can do. We engineer. We have hope. We believe in what could be possible, and we go there. We do things because they're hard. Remember hearing that? We're going to the moon, not because it's easy, but it's hard. You know how many steps my dad wrote the critical path management step for going to the moon? That's how I got into construction. My dad gave me critical path software insight before it was ever in building. That's how I got those expensive homes. I didn't belong there, but I could tell my owners that the pyramids were taking really long and how much it cost every day. It was crazy. But we have the ability to do this. And this is what we should be doing. And you hear green jobs, and you hear all this stuff. It needs to be engineering. It needs to be a mission-critical campaign that our military... Hey, you know who the greenest organization in the world is today? Our military. Our military gets it. You know why? Because it's life and death for them. They're switched on to sustainability. They're all over solar. They're all over soy-based and alginated fuels. They're going to grow fuel in the fields for the next battlefield. It's amazing what they're doing. But if we do it right, and we get things in balance, and we put the earth to work, we'll be off oil. You know, Boone Pickens, you guys all know Boone Pickens? Boone's a friend of mine. I flew in his jet to his ranch. I was like, crazy. I'm in his Gulfstream. We're flying for 15 minutes. The pilots go, we're over the ranch, sir. 10 minutes later, we're still over the ranch. Another 10 minutes, we're still over the ranch. Boone lands, and I helped Boone with that ad, but he's up there and goes, hi, I'm Boone Pickens. I've been in the oil business about 55 years. I know a little bit about energy. Now let me just tell you something. We're taking $720 million from here, and we're shifting it over there. And that's wrong. That's all that we needed to hear from Boone. We spend $700 billion a year importing oil. We are at peak and beyond. It's insane. And we got to get it back. And we can, and we will. And I woke up a couple of years ago knowing I was a leader in the space, but I wasn't acting like it. And any one of you that wants to know where you start this, you start it right where you are. What do? So you're a researcher for Netto, but you're a super sustainable researcher for Netto now. What do? So, you know, civil engineering is all over this, right? You can be the strongest person within the space in your offices. Be the leader. Wake up tomorrow and realize you're the leader in the space and go with it. You'd be surprised, people, how easy it is to get to the top when you believe in yourself, when your head and your heart line up. When your head and your heart line up and you know that, what comes out of your mouth is true. And people go with it. All right, biomimicry. You guys know what that is? Biomimicry is the earth telling us how to design stuff. Janine Benyus, she's a rock star. She's a walking female Einstein. And what's your name again? Joyce? You know what else is going on? She's great. You know what else is happening in this world? The ascension of women. The ascension of women. How many women in the room? Hey, women, guess what? You're the ones. How old are you back there, around here? 25? This is yours. You were born with more instinct and more intuition and more capacity to nurture life than we were, than us gray-haired guys building stuff with right angles and low bids. Your generation is the one that's here to develop things that protect life, not take it. Your generation is here to preserve, restore, and regenerate. You guys want to know how we get out of this global slump? This is it. We step up. We take the lead again. And it's about each one of you doing it. And it's about sensing this. It's about what Alabama and about farming and about this is no different than your great-granddaddy's sense of purpose. It really isn't. There's just different ways to do it. And now that we can fit the world on the head of a pin on the internet, your blog and your information and your recipe for doing the right thing, all these things matter. I have time now for Ray? You don't want to stop, do you? I'm not going to leave Alabama. I'm staying. I'm moving in. Hey, I get paid in home-cooked meals, so you guys, you can't afford me, right? You just can't. But when I come, I'm going to leave something behind. I'm going to make a donation. I'm going to spend time. And all I want some apple pie. I want some grits. I want some food. Because you know where I am all the time? I'm in C3C. The food in 3C is terrible. And I started bringing my own food. It's worse. So anyway, all right. Hey, you know, my closing comments I kind of already said. Nothing would honor those people that passed. And nothing will honor all the people that'll pass than to rebuild in a way that protects life. How simple is that? Every brick, every nail, every piece of material that goes up. Because what have we done on this planet? We built cities. We can fix that. We can make these cities that protect life, not extinguish. We can design for storms. All you architects, you guys have some ideas, don't you? You have some thoughts on how these things can be built. Well, let me tell you, if your story and your conviction is strong enough, you can get to the right level. Jim back there, he thinks he's free now. He's in trouble because I'm sending him this way. Because the right idea will draw the right amount of money. I'm gonna end with this. You can kill this film, John, A.B. John, and tee up Ray Anderson's video. This next 10 minutes is probably the best thing I can do for you. And shut up.
I'd like to just add one thing if I can, first of all,
Yeah.
because timing is important. On this day, 48 years ago, 4 little girls were killed at 16th Street Baptist Church. It happened at 10:22 a.m. on this day, 48 years ago. If you look on the back of your program, there's some information about those girls. And I wanted to honor the Birmingham Pledge today, and that is why that is on the back of the program, in honor of those little girls. Wade Black, who is the Executive Director of the Birmingham Pledge, is here at the back. If you haven't already done so, I urge you to go by their booth and sign the pledge, and pledge that racial prejudice will not exist in your lives and in our communities anymore. So today's a very significant day for America. So sorry for letting me interrupt you.
No, that was a great
10:22
interruption.
a.m., which is about 5
6 minutes. Feel it. So let me finish with this. There's a 3rd grade class. Teacher comes into the class and says, "Hey kids, I want you to draw a picture of something that you love." And so Todd starts drawing a picture of he and his brother out at the lake house with a summer camp, the tree house, the wagon, their bikes. Goes over to Ron. Ron's drawing a picture. He and his brother and sister, they're building the go-kart, doing all this cool stuff. And she comes up to it. What's your name? What is it? Brittany. Goes up to Brittany. She says, "Brittany, what are you drawing a picture of?" Brittany says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher goes, "Brittany, we can't draw a picture of God. We don't know what God looks like." Brittany looks up at the teacher and she goes, "You will when I'm finished." Anything's possible And the older I get, the more important it is for me to step in the audience, come back to a 25-year-old, bright young woman with the potential for girl power and the potential for someone like me to just set it. So the one thing that I do today is you, that makes you feel like you have that sense. It's what happened in Greensburg. There was this one young 15-year-old girl named Alexis. She stood up. She told her parents, and this was the first meeting after the storm, the whole town was done. They were going home. Most of those people would have moved into the neighboring towns. But that 15-year-old girl stood up and said, if we build this town this way, if we build this town so that it gives back, I'm staying. And to be honest with you people, when I arrived in Greensburg, my research said that Greensburg was a little bit in decline. It was a small farming town where people like you, Brittany, were going to New York and California when you got the chance to. And there was nothing holding them there. And so, for you leaders, you decision makers, you fathers, you uncles, you brothers, you mothers, you council members, you mayors, you think about your children when you make these decisions about these buildings, because you are not making decisions about buildings and energy cycles and first costs. Don't make a low bid happen for Brittany. Don't make a low bid happen for the woman whose baby isn't even here yet. Don't do that, okay? And I am not yelling at you. I am pleading with you. I have had a life of mistakes. My whole life was to build that house. My whole life was to fail. My whole life was to find and be my whole person, to be this comfortable, to be this honest with you, to bear it all, to let you know how I really feel about how I think we should be. This isn't about me. This is me doing what I do best, which is leading you to become your best, inspiring you to do something fantastic with the rest of your life, because you are here to leave your mark. And I did that for this man 15 years ago, 17 years ago. I told him he didn't get it. I told him he didn't understand that the nylon molecule could be recycled over and over and over and over without losing its integrity. And so I came up with this idea for an evergreen Lisa carpet. You use it, make new carpet from the old, and it's big now. Wish I got a piece of that action, but I didn't. I was young and dumb, and you're not. And here we are. And so Ray goes, what don't I get? He called me Ego John. I said, well, Ego Ray, you just don't get it. He goes, what do I don't get? And I go, read this book. And he took the biggest carpet company in the world, Carpet Tile. In a short time, he galvanized every employee. That company, whether you know it or not, is the most important company in the world today, because it is the ultimate design of a company heading towards sustainability, climbing Mount Sustainability, as Ray called it. And it is going to be carbon neutral by 2020. And you know what, people? His company is based on petrochemical supply. He survives from the wellhead oil companies. And he's going to be carbon neutral. If he can do it, we can do it. And he was brilliant. He passed away 3 weeks ago. He was like a father to me. My dad died the same month that I met Ray. And Ray and I stepped into each other's worlds, and we loved each other. We cared about each other. We were both climbing Mount Sustainability. And he got angry because I went over to climb Digital Divide at .com Ridge. He didn't like that. But I thought I was going to get there faster, and I still think I will. And you know what? I'm a lead climber. I'm fearless. I'm going to climb to the summit of Mount Sustainability. I can see the summit because I believe it's there. And when I get there, I know there's two things I'm going to get to see. Tomorrow's child, and I'm going to get to see my buddy Ray here. So with that, I want you to show the Ray Anderson clip.
He's a legend of corporate sustainability, a man whose personal story, a story of an epiphany that changed a life and an entire industry. He is a personal hero of mine, a man I think of all of us in this room are striving more and more to be like, and a man who is truly changing the world. The winner of the Leadership Award is Ray Anderson, founder and chairman of Interface, Inc.
If you spend 2 seconds in his presence, you know that he's the real deal. This is a man who does not have a hidden agenda. So whether Ray is, across an auditorium from you, or whether he's standing right next to you, what you see is what you get.
Here is a football player, engineer, founder of a $1 billion a year company who got it at a core level and can get up there and articulate his passion in a way that few other people can.
Ray is an incredibly unique person. First, he is a ferocious businessman. The other part about Ray, though, is he is an incredibly humble person, and he's a listener, he's a learner.
I spent a lot of time with Ray, and he is one of the most amazing human beings that I have come to know and obviously come to love. And it's how he can be so many amazing people at the same time.
He's an industrial engineer, which means he's mathematical. But if you listen to his words, he's almost a poet.
People who see him in the context of a speaker on green think he's sort of this benevolent old man that is trying to do the right thing, and he is. However, he's a fierce competitor and wants to be successful.
First of all, he's very intelligent, very intelligent. He's very humble when it comes to this company and what he's done. And people just want to follow Ray. I mean, he's a born leader.
My job has been to sort of set a vision for the company, but believe me, it's the followers that make the leader.
I've never seen a man more focused, more committed, more passionate. There's not many people like him out there.
It didn't take 5 minutes in his presence to know that he was something special.
Ray combines vision and warmth and humility and passion in a way that has an impact on everybody around him. Besides that, he is a remarkably supportive person. If you're with him, you don't feel like, I gotta compete with Ray and show that I'm even smarter and more visionary. You feel like, wow, this is a celebration of what we all want to achieve. That's a very special capacity. So, I just treasure the times when I'm with him.
Ray Anderson is one of the most impressive people that I know. I mean, he has this commitment to doing something. I mean, not only with his own corporation, but using it as kind of a demonstration of what can be done.
Visionary gets thrown around a lot, and I think maybe there are some people that can see 2 or 3 years ahead. There's some people that can see 5 or 10 years ahead. Ray's had this knack of being able to see a generation or so ahead. He did it with carpet tile.
Just starting a company to make carpet in squares where everyone made it in rolls. That may be a bigger challenge than sustainability, I think, because people, it just didn't make sense.
It wasn't like he bought something and just set it up with the installation instructions. I mean, they just had a kit of parts, and he had to create something from scratch. It just doesn't happen that often. Ray is the kind of guy that sees connections between things and finds opportunity, and he's extremely driven.
God, it was frightening to take that big step into the dark, not knowing where your foot would come down.
It takes a pioneer to open up the way. It's easier to follow a trail than blaze a trail, and that's what Ray has done. I mean, he's been sort of the beta tester for sustainability in industrial applications, and he's come back to the world to say, it's okay, it works really well. My company wouldn't have survived without it.
He made it difficult for people to say, well, I can't do it in my business. He's not in an industry that you would think could lead relative to environmental progress. So if you can do it with carpet, you can do it with just about anything.
Ray has made it safe for CEOs all around the world to look very closely at what he's done and use that business model in their own world.
I cannot tell you how many people come up and talk about this great man. He's this iconic figure,
I've seen Ray give speeches where 100 people have been in a room that have never heard of Interface. And after he's done speaking, people come up to me and say, you work for the greatest company in the world.
And the impact and influence he's had is tremendous. And he has that great accent, and he's just, he could, you know, charm an owl right out of a tree.
He's done more than anybody else in this space in a shorter period of time. And the world's so big and so real time and instantaneous now that it'll take a lot longer for people to look back and see what a historic moment Ray Anderson was, but it'll happen.
I think the Ray Andersons of this world will be seen as we see some of the great inventors of the past. I mean, people like Edison and so on. People that come up with a new way of looking at things, new ideas, yeah, they're going to be seen as the pioneers.
I think Ray will be remembered as kind of the Galileo of green business, the heretic who showed a different way of looking at business and the environment and turned out to be right.
There was a moment when one CEO stood up and said, this isn't right, and we're going to change it.
I have this mental image of a mountain to climb, a mountain that's taller than Everest. The name of the mountain is sustainability.
Well, the problem with Ray is that it's kind of like Jesus Christ and Nelson Mandela. They're so, you know, for the average company or CEO, he's setting the bar so high.
Ray was one of the first business people to step out and commit his legacy personally to making his company the first company of the next industrial revolution.
It's only right that if you create the legacy, you should share it. I truly hope you feel that you do share it. And do you know what? There is something more important than one person or 4,000 persons' legacy. This commitment that we've made won't stop when Interface achieves its 2020 goal. There must be another goal. So I say to you, dream big, work hard, do good, not just no harm, and have fun along the way. I will be with you every step of the way, in body and then in spirit. God bless you.
You know, it's hard for me to think of what this would be like without Ray driving it. But the path is laid out, the success route is well defined, and now we just need to keep doing it.
It's our legacy to accomplish Ray's vision. It's not just Ray's vision, it is 4,500 people's vision called Interface that wants to change the world.
Ray's in our blood. I mean, he's in our DNA.
What I believe he's forcing us to do is take this on ourselves so that we won't miss a beat.
I think Ray Anderson's legacy is safe and secure and powerful. And I think the greatest thing is for us to continue to make progress on this. I mean, one of the things that we can continue to do to ensure his legacy is to perform.
When I was a child, we learned the song in Sunday school. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may lead across the bar. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are, and what if everybody did it?
We don't know Ray Anderson's legacy. We don't know whether it would be enshrined or forgotten. But either way, he was the cause. He was the source. He changed things that will have cascading effects for future generations.
Tomorrow's child speaks to me every day of my life. with one simple but profound message, which I presume to share with my audience, that we are each and every one of us part of the web of life. The continuum of humanity, yeah, sure, but in an even larger sense, the web of life itself. And we have a choice to make during our brief, so brief visit to this living blue-green planet, to help it or to hurt it. It's your choice. Without a name and unseen face, and knowing not your time or place, tomorrow's child, though yet unborn, I met you first last Tuesday morning. A wise friend introduced us to, and through his sobering point of view, I saw a day that you would see, a day for you, but not for me. Knowing you has changed my thinking, for I never had an inkling that perhaps the things I do might someday somehow threaten you, tomorrow's child, my daughter and son. I'm afraid I've just begun to think of you and of your good, though always having known I should. Begin I will to weigh the cost of what I squander, what is lost, if ever I forget that you will someday come and live here too.
Thank you for letting me share that with you. It was, I'm sorry, he just passed away 3 weeks ago. He was like my dad. I'm sorry. But, you know, I know that the rest of my life I'm going to show that film and state that poem. So I'm so glad I came today. And I hope you guys don't waste the power that you have, especially you, Brittany.